I don't normally do manga reviews or even read manga in general. Sure, I've read 73 chapters of Tokyo Ghoul, have been following Attack on Titan's manga, and finished the No Regrets side story. However, recently, I've been getting a variety of manga. Now I own 2 volumes of Barakamon, the first volume of Attack on Titan Before the Fall, and an entirely new manga called Seraph of the End. Okay, I got the manga for a reason. An anime adaptation is airing in the spring, and to see whether the show would be worth it, I decided to check out the first 3 volumes of the source material. Unlike with Tokyo Ghoul, I'm not going to read beyond Volume 3 because Volume 4 isn't going to be released until the anime adaptation airs anyway, so it's not incredibly worth it. So, where am I going with this? Well, I figured that some people are having the same thoughts as I was concerning this new anime adaptation, so I decided to review the manga to let you viewers know whether the anime will have any merits or if it'll just be a by-the-numbers shonen. With that out of the way, let's begin. The manga follows a 12-year-old boy named Yoichiro Hayuka, or Yu for short. No comment. Anyway, he's an orphan who lives with his fellow orphans in the Hyuka orphanage, and apologies for probably pronouncing that incorrectly. But the setting is far from mundane. 4 years ago, a deadly virus was released onto the world, killing every human above 13 years of age. Vampires took in the surviving children, using the orphans, as the manga puts it, as blood cattle. Yoichiro is obviously pretty pissed off, and continually boasts about eventually killing them all. Still no comment. But his friend Michaela, or Mika for short, tells him that he has to use his brain to outsmart the monsters. As it turns out, Mika has been giving his blood to the noble vampire Farid, and in turn has been sneaking around Farid's house looking for means of escape. One night, Mika finds a map and a gun and takes everyone to the gate leading to the outside world. Unfortunately, Farid knew about this stratagem and a massacre takes place. Yoichiro is the only survivor, and finds that the outside world is very different from what he imagined. From there, he vows vengeance against the vampires and fights with humanity to defeat them, as well as defeat other strange supernatural creatures that have appeared since the apocalypse. Shut up! I said no comments! I'm not going to lie, the story is fairly typical for this genre, and the comparisons to Attack on Titan are way too obvious. However, it is in the execution that the manga excels at. There's plenty of time given to introduce this very intriguing setting and Yoichiro's backstory, and later on when he meets other people they're all given enough time to develop. Because of this, you begin to actually care about the transpiring events, making the story fun to read. The manga also manages to balance out the serious and the not so serious moments rather well, with some pretty hilarious comedy accompanied by intense scenes of action, violence, and potential tragedy. The pacing of the manga is perfect, and there wasn't a moment where I was bored. However, there are some problems, and they are pretty major. It can be difficult to like this manga because of how typical the story is, and those who are looking for an epic masterpiece that breaks new boundaries will be disappointed. It also doesn't help that the manga has a very shonen feel to it because of the mixture of action and comedy and the fact that a good portion of the first few volumes take place in high school. Granted, they move out of high school in the 3rd volume, but my point still stands. In other words, the manga doesn't always take itself incredibly seriously, which may be a huge turnoff to those who want a dark and serious story. For me personally, I find the manga to be very enjoyable, and I've had more fun reading it than watching most action anime recently. Overall, the story is nothing incredibly special, but is very entertaining because of an interesting setting, great action, and some pretty nice characters, which I'll talk about next. Like the story, the characters aren't the most unique or special, but at the same time, this is one entertaining cast. In fact, these characters are actually pretty well developed, all things considered, and are probably the best part of the manga. Yoichiro, unlike what I've been joking about, actually is pretty different from Eren in a few ways. Sure, they pretty much have the same exact motivation, and they're both pretty edgy, but Yoichiro seems to have reacted pretty differently to his own tragedy. For one, his past continually comes back to haunt him through his dreams and trials. Heck, there's even a powerful scene of Yoichiro crying after dreaming about his massacred companions. When has Eren Yeager ever cried? Yoichiro was still pretty hot-headed and reckless though, driven by revenge and believing himself to be a lone wolf that doesn't need any help from others. This is understandable. The last time he opened up to people, they all got killed and he's still going through trauma because of it. It's perfectly reasonable that he distanced himself from others. Again, this is stuff that we've seen before, but it's executed so well in this case that I really don't care. Moving on, next we have Shinoa, the female lead. She is awesome because she is hilarious. She has such a strange personality that it's really hard to relate her to any other character that I've seen. She always looks so sly and unpredictable. I can't really say anything else about her, just read the manga or watch the anime, you'll see what I mean soon enough. Now we have Yoichi, one of Yurichiro's new friends. He's very kind-hearted and sincere, but also harbors a dark past concerning vampires. Unlike Yurichiro, however, he isn't nearly strong enough to face the vampires head-on, but is still brave enough to put his life on the line to protect others. He's likable enough and his backstory is great, but he's definitely one of the weaker characters. The final character I want to talk about is Guren, the military officer who found Yurichiro. You'd think that he'd be a strong and capable adult, but no, he's arrogant, selfish, and overall not the nicest person, and he is awesome. Despite embodying the typical jerk character, the way he's written makes him so likable and suave while also being absolutely hilarious. Every time he appears, I prepared myself for his awesome fighting skills or his comical dialogue. Either way, I looked forward to his every appearance. So overall, the cast may fall into somewhat typical archetypes, but they're all fleshed out rather nicely and makes this manga really fun to read. The art of Seraph of the End is really good. It's very clean and crisp, creating characters that appear to match their own age range. The character designs are really good, and I really like the hairstyles and the shape of the eyes. Admittedly though, sometimes it did look like the artist copied faces and hairstyles onto different characters. There were moments where I mixed up Yuichiro and Yuichi, and there were other moments where I considered that Guren might actually be Yuichiro's father. But for the former, their facial expressions and composures were enough to tell them apart, and for the latter, who knows, it might become a future plot point. The military uniforms also look very professional and well thought out, as seen by the immense detail on them. The detail on the settings also aren't half bad either, and they're very nice to look at. So Seraph definitely isn't a failure in terms of eye candy, unlike another popular manga that people keep on comparing this to. I'm never gonna get over how bad the art is in Attack on Titan. Overall, Seraph of the End is a very fun read, and in some ways is better than Attack on Titan, at least Titan's manga form. It's incredibly addictive, and while it does feel typical at times, I think that the great characters and solid artwork are enough to earn a recommendation from me. After meticulously calculating each score for each section of this review, I give the story a 6, because while it is well paced and has an interesting setting, it is rather cliched and can't shake off its feeling of genericness at some points. I give the characters an 8, as even though they aren't the most unique, they're written very well and are stronger than most other characters within their archetypes. I give the art a 7, as it is very easy on the eyes but can feel a bit repetitive when it comes to character designs. And for enjoyment, I give the manga a 10, as it hooked me in and, for me at least, was insanely entertaining despite these flaws. I have mixed these grades together to create an average score. For Seraph of the End Volumes 1 through 3, I give an overall score of 7.5 out of 10, and a recommendation to give it a shot or to wait for the anime adaptation. I can't guarantee that everyone will enjoy it, but if you like popcorn anime like Blue Exorcist or Kill la Kill, you'll probably end up finding this entertaining. Well, that was my review of the first 3 volumes of Seraph of the End. Do you agree or disagree? Also, if you like this video, would you like to see any other manga reviews from me in the future? I can't promise that they'll be as frequent as my other videos, but let me know if you'd like me to make any more. Leave it in the comments. This is HS Media Nerd, and I'll see you guys next time.